I moved into Willow Bend hoping for a reset. After 2 decades of high-rise apartments and rush-hour gridlock in Atlanta, I wanted something slower, quieter, somewhere I could sit on a porch and actually hear the birds instead of sirens. The house wasn't much a weathered colonial with chipped paint and a stubborn front door, but it was the first place I ever bought with my own name on the deed. It backed up to a creek, had space for a garden, and best of all, no HOA. Or so I thought. The day after I moved in, while I was still hauling boxes inside and figuring out which light switch controlled which part of the house, a woman appeared at the end of my driveway, like a bad omen. She was tall, all angles, with the kind of posture that suggested she thought she owned the place. "Excuse me," she called, waving a clipboard. "Are you the new homeowner?" I nodded, wiping sweat off my forehead. "That's me." "First-time buyer," she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm Diane Withers, president of the Willow Bend Homeowners Association." I blinked. I was told there wasn't an HOA here. "Oh, it's a reinstated association," she said smoothly. "The original charter was reactivated last fall. We've mailed several notices to this address." She handed me a thick envelope with my name typed on it in bold. "You'll want to review the bylaws right away. You're already out of compliance." Already, I laughed, thinking she had to be joking. I haven't even finished unpacking. She didn't laugh. "That flag in your yard," she said, pointing, "non-regulation. Also, your mailbox is the incorrect style, and your grass exceeds the height limit by 2 inches. You'll need to address those violations within 10 business days." Then she turned and walked away, like that was the end of it. I stared at the envelope in my hands, dumbfounded. I'd read the county records. There hadn't been an HOA here in over 15 years, and the last entry in the public file listed it as dissolved. No recent meeting minutes, no reactivation notices, nothing. Still, I figured maybe I missed something. Maybe she really was trying to restart the association and just hadn't filed the paperwork yet. So, I played along at first. Over the next few weeks, the letters kept coming. Violation notices, urgent HOA warnings. They were all signed by Diane Withers, with a made-up-looking seal stamped at the bottom. She started sending them weekly, citing new infractions every time. My recycling bin was visible from the street. My porch light was too bright. I had a tomato plant in a container by the back fence, unauthorized vegetable cultivation. It would have been laughable if it wasn't so invasive. She even started coming onto my property. I caught her once, standing in my backyard taking photos. When I confronted her, she said she had every right to inspect for non-compliance, citing paragraph 9B of the bylaws, which, again, had no legal standing. I told her to leave and threatened to call the cops. She left, but not before saying, "You'll regret making enemies with the HOA." Things escalated after that, a few days later. I woke up to find a bright orange sticker on my truck's windshield. It said, "Unauthorized vehicle," in thick black letters. I looked around and saw a tow truck idling down the street. I ran out in my pajamas and stopped them just in time. Turns out, she'd called them personally, claiming I was in violation of restricted driveway usage. I called the towing company afterward. They told me she'd shown them a fake authorization form. That's when I realized this wasn't just annoying anymore. This was fraud. I went to the county records office that afternoon and pulled every document related to Willow Bend. As I suspected, the HOA had been officially dissolved in 2006. No paperwork had been filed to reinstate it. No elections, no bylaws, nothing. I confronted Diane with the documents in hand. She told me she had verbal authorization from the neighborhood and that most people agreed with her leadership. When I asked to see those people or any meeting minutes, she called me combative and walked off. I started talking to the neighbors. One by one, they shared their own stories. Diane had been hitting everyone with fake citations, mostly new homeowners or older residents who didn't know better. One guy had paid her over $800 in dues. Another had repainted his whole porch to avoid fines she told him would end up on his property taxes. None of them had questioned it because Diane was confident, loud, and carried that clipboard like it was the Constitution. Some people even thought she was part of the city council. She wasn't. She was just a bored woman with an ego problem and a laser printer, with a growing stack of evidence. I filed a formal complaint with the county and contacted a local attorney who lived 2 blocks over. Turned out, he'd been watching her antics for months, but hadn't taken action because no one had formally challenged her. Together, we filed a cease and desist letter and requested an investigation through the state's Consumer Protection Office. That's when Diane really lost it. She started parking outside my house, just sitting there for hours like she was trying to intimidate me. One morning, I found my garbage can dumped across the yard, lid shattered. Another day, a certified letter arrived demanding immediate payment of a $450 fine or face legal action. It was on the same fake letterhead she'd been using for months. So I did what any sane person would do. I called a local news station. Turns out, the moment you mention fake HOA scams and elderly residents being tricked, they're all over it. The story aired 2 nights later, full segment. Hidden camera footage of Diane enforcing her rules. Neighbors speaking up. Me showing the bogus documents and the county clerk confirming she had no authority whatsoever. The fallout was glorious. The very next day, Diane's car disappeared from the street. Her house was quiet. No more clipboard patrols. The county issued a public notice confirming the HOA was inactive and that no resident owed dues or was subject to any of her so-called rules. The Consumer Protection Agency opened an investigation into fraudulent activity. Word spread fast, and neighbors began comparing notes, talking more, laughing about how they'd all been duped by a woman with a god complex and a printer. The funniest part, she tried to defend herself online, posting in a local Facebook group that she had only been trying to preserve the integrity of the community. People dragged her in the comments for 3 days straight. She deleted her profile the following week. A month later, we held a community meeting, an actual one, with food trucks and folding chairs where we discussed forming a real neighborhood association. But this time, it would be optional, transparent, and focused on things that mattered, like safety and neighbor support, not mailbox color. Me, I've still got my tomato plant out back, still park my truck in the driveway. I added a small wind chime, shaped like a middle finger. Just a quiet little reminder. The thing about people like Diane is they count on silence. They count on folks not asking questions, on being too busy or too polite to push back. But sometimes, all it takes is one person to say, "Hold up, that's not right." And suddenly the whole facade comes crashing down. I didn't move to Willow Bend to start a war. But I wasn't about to let someone bully me out of the peace I'd worked so hard for. This is my home. I earned it, and no fake clipboard queen was going to take that from me.